Hey everyone, it's Natalie here to teach you step by step how to make Luffy's red vest from the early seasons of One Piece. This tutorial is beginner friendly and perfect for anyone wanting to cosplay Luffy. To get started, you can find this exact pattern on my site, cosplayyunkie.com. I've commissioned so many of these vests over the years and I'm excited to share my process with you. And with that, welcome to Cosplay Yunkie. First, let's go over a few things you'll need. All products today are from Joann Fabrics. Hand sewing is an option, but I recommend any basic sewing machine. You'll need a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. Next, you'll need a pair of scissors meant to cut fabric. This is the way you'll get the cleanest lines. Also, you'll need 3 yellow buttons that are 1 inch in size, 2.5 yards of fabric if it's a short width like mine, which is 43 inches, or 1.5 yards of regular width fabric. I recommend flannel. You'll also need pins in any size you prefer and basic red thread. Lastly, you'll need a hand sewing needle and the pattern. This can be found on our site, link in the description. Now, I know most of these are pretty common tools, but let's break down fabric selection. I recommend flannel fabric despite its shorter width because it's perfect for a soft finish project that can still hold its shape. 2.5 yards gives me the perfect amount of fabric with some wiggle room, but you may be able to use less if you're making a smaller size or more for a larger size. And here I am laying the middle back piece on the fold because we only need to cut one of these. Doing this like this prevents any seams in the final project. You will also need to cut the front piece twice, so you have 4 total front pieces and 1 back piece. After you cut everything out, you should have pieces that look like this. To begin sewing, we're going to hem in the back neckline. To do this, we're just going to fold in this short neckline piece here and sew a straight stitch line. Now we're going to create our front pieces by sewing a line down the neckline, front, and that little curve at the bottom. We cut 4 of these, so this part of the garment will have more shape and durability. Now that that is sewn, we can flip the front pieces right side out. I use a seam ripper to pull the points out, but you can also use a chopstick from the inside, or sometimes even a pin works too. All I'm doing here is pinning the front line that we just sewed so it is even and flush with the edge. Now we're going to sew that same line we just did, except now this is on the correct side of the fabric. So the right side, that what you're going to see is what we're sewing on. This is called a top stitch. Now we're going to sew our front and back pieces together at the shoulder seam. Remember, your fabric should be facing right side together. After that, we're going to hem the armholes just like we did that neckline, just folding it in and then straight stitching across it. If a section of the curve is giving you a hard time, you can cut a line into it to kind of ease that curve a little bit, but make sure you're only cutting where the hem would be and is on the inside of your garment. And this would just be a small snip to make it easier to fold this in. And after both armholes are hemmed, you can now sew your side seams. And for the final step of building the vest, we're now going to hem the bottom line. If you have excess fabric here, you can go ahead and cut that off as long as the entire bottom line is straight and even and both sides match. And now for buttons, go ahead and place your first button at the top and sew that in approximately where I have mine. Now go ahead and sew the bottom button in the same way. For this next part, you can use a ruler to find your middle point, but I like to just fold it in the middle, match my buttons up, and kind of press so a line stays. It's not permanent, so quickly put your pin in that line. And at this middle mark, you can go ahead and sew your third button in place. Here you can see I'm double measuring that mark. It's better to be safe than sorry, and I am making an adjustment to be more accurate. For the final step, we need some buttonholes. There are so many ways to accomplish this, but this is just my method. I start by laying my garment flat and seeing where the button would be. Then I put a pin through the middle of that button on the opposite side. Then I place 2 more pins where the outline of that button would be so the button can fit in that pin box I just made. This gives me all the points I need later to make my buttonholes perfect for that size button. If your machine has a sewing button setting, this is the time to switch your settings to that. Otherwise, you're going to want your smallest zigzag that your machine can go. I like to start at the inner point of the buttonhole and I make a few stitches just to build that little wall. Then I pivot the garment so I can do the side stitch of the buttonhole. Then I pivot again to make a matching little wall on the side again, followed by another pivot and a longer stitch line. When you're done, you should have something that looks like this. To finish the buttonhole, you can take your scissors and make a small hole. From that hole, you can cut your entire line to complete the buttonhole. Don't forget to make sure your buttons fit so you can redo anything that needs done. After you repeat those steps 2 more times, your Luffy vest is complete. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future patterns. See you guys next time.